So I finally finished Kingdom Come Deliverance, and after 50 hours, I can say that it's a great game. Sure, it was host to a variety of issues on launch, but I still think it's going to be one of the best games of 2018. But before we get into that, I first want to talk about some of the mistakes I made in the initial review, as well as some changes of opinion since playing. My first mistake was assuming guards randomly wanting to search you was a bug. Turns out it's not. I later realized that it does depend on what you're wearing, which makes a lot of sense considering in the later game when I had some really nice armor and clothing, everyone thought I was a knight, compared to the start when I was wearing human armor and rags and caked in dirt. So not a glitch, actually just a cool feature which I didn't realize straight away. So that's the only mistake in the first review that I noticed and viewers noticed, so let's talk about what has changed in my opinion from my initial experience to finishing the game. First off is the lockpicking system. When I first started playing, I was completely against it. It was pretty hard relative to other lockpicking minigames, and it wasn't very fun either, but I started to realize that it doesn't need to be easy or need to be fun necessarily because it is a very small part of a game. Lockpicking itself isn't necessary to finish the game, it's only there if you want to make more money and do more quests. So given it's optional and beneficial in itself to get through, maybe it should be challenging, although it's apparently even more frustrating on console. Next was the save system, which was pretty much the hottest topic of debate when this game came out. I personally am pretty neutral to the whole save your schnopp system. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Pretty early into my playthrough, I got the mod which would let me hard save as much as I wanted, and next time I play the game, I will just play it how it was meant to be. A good third of my playtime was reloading saves to get around bugs and going back to grind a lot, and if I were using the regular save system, this would take even longer. The intended save system works on paper, but when the game was first released and had a lot of bugs, it didn't work as it was supposed to in my opinion. Sure, when you progress through the game you can buy as many save as schnapps as you need and make them as well, but when I first started, if I made any mistakes or got trapped on a bug, I needed those hard saves into save scum to make it easier to deal with. This is mainly regarding bugs. I had a lot of NPCs glitch out and the game freeze very often at certain points. And if I was using the regular save system, I would have to go back 20 minutes ago rather than 5 because I'd be trying to conserve all my schnapps. So when the game is perfectly patched and there's barely any significant bugs, the system will work because you won't have to worry about unintended issues. So say what you will, but I feel if I used the regular system with a lot of bugs, it would have taken a lot longer to complete the game and it would have been less fun in my opinion, and having fun is the most important thing when you play a game. So let's start talking about the game and story in general. There will be spoilers in this video. If you haven't completed the game, I will be talking about the story in a chronological order, so if I get to a part you're not up to and you're not sure, just click away. Unless you don't care about spoilers, then in that case let's get into it. Now, I think we can all agree that the start of a game is maybe the least fun part of it. It does a good job of teaching you how to play the game, but the pacing of it and the railroading of it kinda sucks. Especially when you compare it to the mid-game and the late game where you're free to do what you want. It kinda sets up the game poorly in my opinion, and I think that is kinda reflected when you look at the average playtime for the game. I'm sure there's a lot of people that got sick of being forced to go to a certain place for hours on end and they either just quit or they refunded the game. Mind you, after you get through the prologue, the game is amazing, but the start is pretty slow. When it's just you playing and exploring the map and, kind of doing the main quest, but doing a lot of side quests you come across, that's when the game really shines. Especially when you finish the Baptism of Fire mission, which that mission I already talked about in the review, wasn't that good, but I'm glad I got it finished. Missions like Pestilence, Playing with the Devil, and Waldensians were great side quests to play. When you got a bit sick of a main quest or you just wanted to do something a bit different, they were very fun. I played the majority of the side quests in the game. The ones I didn't really do is when you need to hunt some game for someone or find someone's lost horse. The kinda less unique kinda missions. Kingdom Come and The Witcher are one of the few modern games which will actually put the same amount of effort and voice acting into side quests as they do the main quest, which is so appreciable. It's such a nice feature. So with the main quest, you're looking for all the bandits which did the raid on Neuhof. And you know, it's pretty straightforward. I do like the investigation you do. It doesn't hold your hand, which I like. A lot of RPGs, they make it just very highlighted on what you need to search and where you need to go. And you do that for a while. And then eventually you'll get to the monastery mission, which is kind of like the midpoint of the story. A few people I talked to didn't really like this mission, but I thought it was pretty fun. It was a nice change of pace from all the traveling and fighting. You got to do alchemy and read more. The mystery itself with finding Pius was pretty straightforward. I thought it was kind of obvious early on, especially when you pickpocket everyone and Pius is a one which doesn't have any religious books on him. I felt that was a bit of a giveaway, and how he acts in general. Overall a fun mission, but there were a few issues. Since you have to go on a schedule, I was always finding myself waiting, and if you were late by 1 minute, you were in somewhere for 1 second too long, you would get chucked into prison. Probably how it was back then in monasteries, but kind of annoying in my opinion. Still a fun mission though. And after you finish the monastery mission, this is kind of when you start to transition into the endgame, and the story is still very interesting. It's still well written and engaging, but I feel the gameplay kind of falls apart a bit. And what I mean by this is mostly the combat and the balancing. Up until this point, combat is challenging, it's very fun and engaging, but later on you start to get overpowered a bit in my opinion, and of course you do get more powerful in the game through gear and skills, and that's good, you need some kind of progression. But then later on you start to just one-hit everyone, and the only solution the game has to this is making you fight 6 people at one time. I really like the melee system in this game, it's very intricate. But it falls apart when you have to fight multiple people with how it locks on. So the game goes from being pretty hard to pretty easy from the start to the end. The large battles you get are kinda cool, they are fun to be in, but the novelty does kinda wear off pretty quickly. You just run, you hit someone, you hit another person, and then you go to the next stage, and it's not as fun as it could be, or probably as the developers intended it to be. I remember when the game first had its trailers, they showed all these massive line battles, and obviously that wouldn't work on the engine and budget they had. So I guess this is some kind of compromise, but the game is kind of at its best when you're dueling one-on-one. Highlight of the endgame for me is probably the mission with Brian Blessed as a voice actor, which is directly in the main storyline. It was just a very fun and novel mission, kind of in contrast to the whole theme of a big war and bandits and everything. But what I didn't like about the end mission is there was about a dozen optional side missions and none of them were really interesting. I did a few because I thought, hey, maybe this is like Fable or Mass Effect where the amount of effort you put into the end will influence it. Maybe it does, but I didn't notice anything. It wasn't particularly fun in my opinion to do any of them. And next time I'll probably just skip all of them. I don't care about collecting coal or collecting beer. Definitely the worst part of the end game was the night raid mission. It felt just kind of shoddily made in my opinion. I can talk about it without spoilers really, but if you've played it you know it by its name and you'll get some bad memories probably. First off is you need a dagger for stealth kills and you need level 5 stealth for this. I didn't have it at that point so I had to go back and grind a bunch. And the thing is, you can grind stealth and pickpocketing and lockpicking infinitely with a miller, which I felt kind of weird in a medieval roleplay. You can grind stuff in a way which kind of felt bad in my opinion, but in contrast, it is pretty hard to level up those skills legitimately. The stealth sections just have you following an NPC, and you inevitably get caught, which I felt kind of dumb. What's the point of doing it then? You might as well just fail the mission from the start and finish it like that. Maybe this was just me, but I couldn't actually die during the mission. I'm not sure if that was intended or it was just some weird bug which I had through multiple tries. I would get lowered to the lowest point of my health, have minimal stamina, but I could not die, so I could just walk all the way out. Which honestly was preferable because the alternative was fighting my way out against 12 people, which in such a cramped area wasn't fun. I was in a particularly bad mood because I'd been having freezes for hours with the out of a frying pan mission, which is before this. I'd say for every 10 good missions you have in Kingdom Come, you would have one bad one, which is a pretty good ratio. It's just the issue is the bad ones are really frustrating. They would always be covered in bugs or just kind of bad planning or game design in my opinion. So they would always slow down the pacing and take hours to grind through or just deal with bugs. The upside is though, when you get done with one of the bad missions, you can do one of the good ones with good writing and they're unique. Most of the side quests in this game, they don't really overlap. One does one thing, another does another, so you don't really feel any kind of repetition for the most part, except for the missions where you're hunting down human camps or bandit camps, and there's a lot of them to do, or when you're hunting game for someone. They're not bad by any means, they are just kind of repetitive things to stretch out gameplay for people that want it, and they do a good job of that in my opinion. I didn't realize you could actually hunt down these camps, and I ended up doing it in the late game, which was kind of weird because I one-shot everyone and all the money was barely of any worth to me, but still amusing anyway. Some other side things before I talk about the ending. It was always really fun getting nice clothing and good gear because most games don't really have it affect your game in a non-combat way, but it was always so fun to be called a knight by someone because I look cool, and how it actually raised my charm, which I did need in some occasions when talking to knights or nobles. One thing which did suck though, which I feel happens in pretty much every role-playing game I play, is horse races. I hate them. Not because it's a bad concept, I like racing games, but because in most RPGs the horses get stuck on everything, and this happens so much in this horse race. Another good reason why I was happy I could use as many hard saves as I wanted, because this race takes about 10 minutes and I don't think anyone wants to keep redoing it or waste their save or schnapps on it. So now let's actually talk about the story's ending. The main twist of the story where you find out who your father is was pretty interesting. It didn't really change the game much, which I enjoyed. I'm sure a lot of people were expecting to be treated massively different, but honestly it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. But it does kind of answer some questions as to why you were being treated this way and why people trusted you so much. And the actual ending, you know, it's left open, which I do like. The whole thing is that this game is kind of going to be in multiple parts. It was initially intended to be a 4-part series, but they kind of clumped it up into one main thing. This is essentially the first part, maybe a bit of a second part, but I am looking forward to getting more answers in the end. And it's not one of those cheap cliffhangers where it's like, oh, stay tuned, what's going to happen next? You get a lot of closure. You don't get all of it, you get some to look forward to, but you're still happy with the ending. It is satisfying. You do achieve a lot. I think that's it. I was thinking this video was going to be 40 minutes or so, but I've spoken my mind and I don't think I have anything more to add. It's been 30 more hours since I did the initial review, and I think I love the game more, but I still had more to critique it on. The balance falls apart, and there's more bugs prevalent in the end, especially since they're surrounding the main quest. It ruins the pacing. Hopefully this is fixed. But you still end up with an amazingly written story, a great world, and an authentic medieval experience which isn't that common. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've enjoyed making it. If you're new, I recommend subscribing. Click the bell to see when new videos are out. Leave a like if you enjoyed, leave a dislike if you didn't. Comment what you thought. Keep in touch with me through Twitter and Discord. I'm Al, and as always, thanks for watching.
Do wczorajszylne skaje prak, už se bojí svatý muži, nechtěl bych bejt v jejich kůži, nám je to jedno a tak si dáme jedno.